Welcome to Sharing My Truth with Mel and Susie, the uncensored version, where we bear it all.
We do.
Hey, everyone, and welcome back to Sharing My Truth Pod. I wanted to be a radio DJ when I was younger.
You'd have made
I would have been like, hey, guys, welcome back to Radio and 67.3 FM here with Slutty Little Susan. You know, whatever your DJ name is.
Yeah.
Anyways, hey guys, you're here with Share My Truth Pod. It's not a radio show, unfortunately. And we're here to give you this cute little reminder to follow us, subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple, whatever the fuck you
YouTube.
listen to your
Press
podcasts.
all those buttons.
YouTube, press them all.
We're on YouTube now.
I
A
know.
lot.
I know if you ever want to see our cute little faces
And all the
you-
comments, please do.
Oh my god, the comments kill us every time. And Mel will reply to most of them. She's our girl. If you want to have a conversation on YouTube with Mel, she's there. And yeah, go to Share My Truth Pod on Instagram and TikTok and all those good stuff. And you can go to sharemytruth.com. Send us a voicemail. Send us an email. Do whatever you want. You can also listen to our podcast there if you don't have anything else.
You can.
Hey, babes.
Hello.
Hey.
Yes. Hello. I don't know what to say. I've been all overwhelmed.
Just trying to get through it, you know?
Yeah, it's very good.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you, babe.
Better than I could ever do.
No, I don't think so.
Mm.
You just be posh about it.
Posh.
You'd be like,
All Bridgerton about it.
whatever the fuck you say.
Yes. All those weird, jolly old weird things I say.
No people don't understand it, but they would like the sound of it.
That's true. People often don't know what I'm talking about, but that's fine. It's probably good that way.
So what are we talking today about?
Well, we've had a write-in, and I think this is kind of interesting. It's from a gentleman
Oh,
who is anonymous, so I don't know much about
of
him.
course it's anonymous. We don't tell anyone's name. So if you guys want to write into us, we always
We
keep
will
it
never-
anonymous.
Yeah, exactly. So he did send us a little message, and he said that he's in a relationship with this woman,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been together for a while,
Mm-hmm.
about 5 years,
Great.
but she is super kinky. And she's kinkier than he is. Like, he's pretty, I guess, he hasn't actually said this, but he said I'm like normal. So I think he sort of means like beige, like just
Yeah. He's
normal.
vanilla sex. There's nothing wrong with vanilla.
Well, that's the thing. I don't have enough detail other than he said, my girlfriend is kinkier than me. And
Right.
like, what do I do?
Right.
So he hasn't gone into detail. And I think herein lie the problem.
Yeah.
So you need to send me more details.
Well,
Mr.
also,
Anonymous.
you need to maybe have a conversation with the girlfriend. Maybe you don't even know if this is kinky or not kinky.
Well, exactly. Like, I think that lots of people have in their mind, and we've done this in previous episodes about kink, because we obviously get asked about this a lot, because apparently
Yeah.
we're experts on it.
I am an expert on
Well,
kink, Mel.
Susie probably is. Yeah.
Ovs.
But I think a lot of people imagine kinky is like, we talked about Catwoman. That's what we talked about. It's like you're in this sort of latex outfit with some great big whip and blah, blah,
It's
blah.
hot.
Like, yeah, you're doing full on thing. Whereas actually lots of people do lots of micro levels of kink. Is
Yes.
that a good way of trying to say?
Of course.
Like they might like, spanking, or they might like
Yes.
handcuffs, or they might, I think the vast majority of people are in some level in some of those things on a very, if you like, beige level.
Mm-hmm.
But, that would be considered kinky, but I don't think it's very kinky. But so
Yeah.
my question is this, what does he mean by kinky?
Well,
Is he talking about getting some handcuffs out? Is he talking about a bit of a whip? Is he talking she gets boots on? Or is he talking full on dominatrix? And that's what I need to know.
Well, yeah. So obviously we don't know the answers to these.
No.
But I think a lot of people are having this kind of weird problem, and especially guys who kind of think they want maybe a kinkier dominatrix kind of a woman in bed, and then they realize they're like, wait, I actually just kind of want regular normal sex.
Yeah, they're just like,
And
whoa.
then because then
it's all a bit overwhelming.
exactly. And then they're like, I don't want to be tied up anymore, babe. Like I just want to be on top of you, looking into your eyes and
Yeah,
having
just-
an orgasm.
yeah.
Like that's all I want. And then, but I can understand as someone who maybe is a little bit more kinky than the regular person, I can understand that maybe that's not what.
Are you really that kinky?
I'm not like super kinky, but I think that I might be more kinky
Than the average.
Yeah. Which
So-
might be just what she's doing.
So there you go. What's the average? The average then?
I think the average is mostly just doing different positions.
And this is your age. We're talking millennials here. Well, young 20s, 30s.
Yeah, like I don't think a lot of people are doing anything. I don't think most people are doing, bringing even toys into the bedroom, right?
Mhm.
Like people are staying pretty vanilla because they don't want to interrupt whatever their partner likes. If that makes sense. They're trying to
Okay.
just make their partner happy, which sounds like titties.
We're
This
having
mic
problem
keeps
with
going
the
into my
mic.
titties. But yeah, so that's what it kind of sounds like is going on with this guy where he's not really communicating.
Well, yeah, he's obviously a little freaked out by the things that she wants to do, and we don't know what they are, but he feels that, yeah, she wants something kinkier than he wants.
Yeah.
And the question is, I don't think that's a problem. I think you just have to talk to her about it. I mean,
Yeah.
and I know I keep saying these kind of things, but just have a conversation. Because the other thing is, he may be kinkier than he thinks.
Right.
So if he has a conversation and maybe her level of doing stuff, whatever it is taking it too far for him.
Yeah.
So she's going to have to come back to where he's more comfortable.
Yeah.
And then they're going to have to figure out where they go. And if they're not right for each other, they're not right for each other. But I think it's always about a conversation, because I think, to be honest, whether it's kink or just anything,
Mm-hmm.
nobody is exactly matched. That's
No.
impossible.
You kind of have to just make compromises in the bedroom a little
Either
bit.
somebody has a higher sex drive, somebody finds it kind of easier to get in the mood.
Mhm.
Like, there is always a thing, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I also think throughout your relationship, that also can shift up, can change.
Yeah.
And so you're never like exactly matched, unless probably right at the beginning when you're driven by the
The honeymoon
vava
phase.
yeah, and all the whatever's flying around, and you're feeling it and you're doing whatever you're doing. And then obviously that wanes because basically when you're in the beginning of meeting somebody, you're kind of in a bubble and you shut the world out.
Mhm.
And so you can just go at it. And then of course, as life starts to creep in, you're like, then it starts to change, which is basically what happens.
Yeah.
And I think people being exactly matched up is just a fallacy. It just doesn't happen.
100%.
So it's this sort of kinky thing. I think the reason we're interested in it, because more often I think we got this was sent in by a man talking about a woman.
Mhm.
I think even in our heads, we think, whether we know it to be reality or not, we would always think it would be the man being
Yeah.
kinkier than the woman. The
Yeah.
man asking for the threesomes, asking for strap-ons, asking for whatever he's asking for.
Yeah.
You know,
But she wants to do it.
but she wants to do it. Well,
Well-
we don't know exactly what she wants to do. But
And I'll remind our audience that like a kink is a sexual act, and
Mhm.
a fetish is like obsessed with like a body part. Like I'm obsessed
Right.
with like your
Yes.
feet, like a foot
Yes.
fetish. And a kink
back
is like
to footfetish.com.
right.
Yes.
And so like a kink is like, wanting to be like whipped in the bedroom, and you like to be
Yes.
flogged and
Yes.
all this other stuff. And then kinks can be really small too, where it's like I kind of like my ear licked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there can be small and larger kinks, and you don't have to just go like I want to be peed on in the shower, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like maybe that is what you want. And for me, that's like a no.
That's a line for
But
me.
it's also like you have to,
No.
and to this
Yeah.
guy, to this gentleman who wrote in, he has to, and we've spoken about this with one of our first interviews, with Dr. what's her
Carolyn
name?
Klein.
Carolyn Klein, with Dr. Carolyn Klein. And she said, we have to, if it doesn't like trigger a disgust
Mhm.
reaction,
Yeah.
then like you can experiment with it.
Yeah.
But if you are triggered in disgust,
Yeah.
you're never going to get turned on.
100% agree.
So that's
100%.
when you have to kind of have your own boundaries,
Mhm.
and you have to be like, okay, like this is definitely not for me. Like for me personally, that's the peeing thing. Anything to do with bodily fluids, I like that sort of. I
Yeah.
can't do it.
Smelly bodily
No,
fluids.
like I cannot do it.
No.
So, but like I'm very open with other things, but you have to know your own boundaries.
100%.
And for that, and for 5 years, if you're dealing with this, you should have communication about it.
Yeah, I mean, God knows what you've been doing for 5 years.
You've just been letting her spank you and you don't like it.
Well, I
Like,
assume what's been going on is they've been having vanilla sex and she's got more and more.
Yeah.
And perhaps it's actually not that vanilla. It's just vanilla to her.
Yeah.
And she's been getting increasingly frustrated. And maybe she's asked him and she's started to bring things in or talk about it. And he's getting more uncomfortable. Obviously, I'm making this all up because I don't know. But I think it is interesting because we have a preconceived idea that it would be the man who'd be kinkier,
Mhm.
which is wrong. That isn't correct. I don't think that's fair because, it's like,
I think with a lot of the guys I've been with for like the entirety of my sexual journey has been like I've been a little bit more experimental with stuff like that than
yeah,
the guys have.
yeah.
And maybe they're just afraid to kind of say something, being like, hey, do you want to try this weird thing?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like they don't want to scare me off.
I think it's harder for men to ask this stuff because they're immediately like, "You're weird."
Yeah.
Whereas if women do it, "You're hot."
Yeah.
It's a sort of different reaction.
100%.
But I think it does. I just think when we say the word kinky, we have this idea of something really wild.
Mhm.
Where in actual fact, most of the time, lots of people do these sort of minor level kind of kinky things. But yeah, you have to know what your boundary is, and I would agree with you. I mean, for me, I am pee, poo, like the whole thing. I mean, any kind of like that interacting into something that's meant to be, as far as I'm concerned, nice, and it's just like, oh wow. I mean, my brain just shuts down.
Yeah.
My whole sensory, no.
Yeah. So you have to just be aware.
You have to know what you can't do.
Exactly.
And then also there's this thing, we've talked about it, of like, if you're into sort of kinky things of dominating or being the one who's not dominated, you have to know about yourself whether you are somebody who, I don't want to be dominated, I'm really uncomfortable, or I'm not, I'm the sub. I mean, I don't mean in the super kinky way. Like we did an interview quite a few episodes back, interviewing somebody who's very heavily into the BDSM scene.
Mhm.
I'm talking just generally in your sex life, there
Yeah.
is somebody who's dominant and not dominant, and you have to know how you feel about that. And if that is crossing a line where you're being made to be the sort of thing that you're not,
Mhm.
then you're uncomfortable, and you have to make it clear. And perhaps that relationship with that person will not work, because at the end of the day, if your intimate life, it doesn't work. You can certainly work on things. Like we've said this before, like maybe it doesn't quite gel at the beginning. I mean, we all have this idea you meet somebody and it's always fantastic. And of course, that's just not true. Sometimes it can develop to be fantastic because you kind of got to know each other's buttons and stuff. And sometimes that it's just not going to happen because you cannot kind of get to a place.
Yeah.
But I think you need to talk to her really quick. Like, listen to this, go talk to her now. You need to know what exactly she means, or maybe by kinky.
Yep.
And what of those things are a hard no,
Mhm.
and what are like, okay, that's not totally disgusting. I could kind of sort of get to that.
Yeah.
And also the things that you are willing to try. Because I would say in any relationship, you got to be open to trying. Even if it's not your thing. Trying is not going to kill you. And you can, if you try it and you hate it, fine. And I'm not talking about really, really crazy stuff. I mean, I know if they're like over your line, my idea of crazy and somebody else's may be different, and that's
100%.
fine. But wherever your line is, I think you should be open to doing things you wouldn't otherwise have thought about doing. And then if you do it and you're like, I really don't like that, it really makes me uncomfortable, then you know.
Exactly.
But you don't know if you don't do it.
I know. Like, I personally am a trisexual. Like, I'll try anything once.
A trisexual.
Like,
yes.
for the most part,
Yes.
within reason.
Yes.
Okay. But like, it's the same with like picky eaters. I cannot fucking stand a picky eater who literally, if like, besides allergies, obviously, it's like they won't even try it.
Yes.
You're going to have some shitty little chicken, whatever, at this gorgeous restaurant because you can't even try like a piece of broccoli. Like, I cannot stand these people. And it's the same in the bedroom. Like, and some people might even say that like oral sex is kinky.
Oh yeah, for
right?
sure,
So
for
it's
sure.
like
Yeah.
you don't even want to go down
Yeah.
on your girl or something like
Lots
that. Like,
of people.
That's
You
where
would be.
it's like a red flag for me. It's like you're not even gonna try
Well, I think
do
that's
something.
I mean, that is a huge
That's
red flag. But
in
yeah,
quotations.
but
a
it's very
kinky
common.
thing.
It's very common.
Yeah.
It's very common that women don't like to do it, or men. And as I have found out from talking to people, and I was like shocked.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing then? To me, that was my first question. But a lot of people don't like it,
And it's
or
like you're
are
not even gonna-
grossed out by the idea of it.
And
or...
I understand, like, there's, you don't have to like do it for like an hour.
well,
But
exactly.
there's like also things where it's like you are, you have to kind of have these compromises in the bedroom
100%.
where you kind of have to lick their balls a little bit.
Yes, Susie.
Like
So
just
funny.
a
The
little
only
bit.
person in my life who would say that. I 100% agree. You can't always do everything that you want.
Yeah,
And
I know.
It doesn't matter what it is, and I've said this to Susie many times. Like, particularly if you're married or in a relationship, it's not always about you, I'm
No,
afraid.
I
I know
know.
that
Exactly.
sucks. But if you want bits of it to be about you, you've got to do it about the we. Not the we as in P, but the we as in you and me.
Yeah.
You have to. And it's kind of selfish otherwise.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good thing. If something disgusts you, then really just don't do it.
That's boundaries, baby. That's what you have to
And-
figure out. But it's also like you cannot not go down on her. I mean, maybe some women actually just don't like it, which I also think like they just need to figure something out with their lives, and they need to be a little bit more open with their pussies.
Are there really women who don't like
There's
it?
women who feel uncomfortable with it because they find it's too intimate.
I think that's because who they're with.
Well, it's also like it's a shame. It's like a shame thing in quotations. Like a lot of women are felt shame about their
Really? Of your
Yes.
age?
I don't know about my age, but I know women of older ages who don't do it.
Really?
And who just-
the
yeah.
hell are they?
Well, they're not doing too well, okay?
No.
But there's these, because no one really talks about it. And men, even if they want to see it or do it, they're like, no, I don't like it. And it's like, you just have to kind of let go a little bit in sex and kind of be able to release yourself to really enjoy yourself. And that's kind of with everything.
Yeah, and I think actually that can be very difficult for the vast majority of people. See, now my headphones are falling off.
Yeah, it's good.
But I also think you should not shame your partner, including kink shaming them. So rather than sort of saying, oh, you're disgusting or whatever because you like whatever, you may not like that, which is completely fine.
Yeah.
But rather than saying you're disgusting, just have a conversation about it and say, look, this is just a line I can't go to. Can we kind of overcome this? And generally you can. Generally you can.
Yeah.
Because everyone has a line. But don't shame people. And people do, don't they?
Well, they do. They shame people, but sometimes they also just go like, oh yeah, like, no, I just like don't want to do it. Just like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's someone who I would never be with. Someone who's just like completely closed-minded about stuff like that. So you have to kind of see where, and like you've been with this person for 5 years. She's more kinky than you, and you haven't spoken about your boundaries. Like that's on you a little bit.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's like you need to kind of figure out if you can deal with her kinks and you can kind of work yourself around them where you're still getting turned on, you're still getting your rocks off, and you're still appeasing her kind of sexual desires and things like that, then that's great.
Yeah.
But if you're like, this is too much for me, you need someone who's more kind of, I don't want to say advanced, but more like interested in kinky stuff than me, and I can't do that anymore because sex is a huge part of a relationship.
Oh, a huge part.
If you want it to last.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
And if you're not doing it, it's a huge part of why it fails.
Yes.
It really is. And and the one thing I think all the experts would say, like if you sort of listen to any kind of therapist or whatever online, like all the sort of, now there are a plethora of clips of things, is they always say like the couples that survive are the ones that communicate, are the ones that prioritize sex, the ones that communicate, the ones that don't judge, all these kind of things. And it actually does take a very long time to get to that point, but you need to have a conversation, you need to sit down, and you're not going to figure this out in one conversation. So don't put too much pressure on that conversation, but just at least open the conversation. I mean, you are getting naked with this person.
Yeah.
You've seen the bits and bobs.
Yep.
You've interacted with the bits and bobs.
I would hope so, for goddamn sake.
I think you can talk to them.
Mhm. Yes.
I
And
mean, I think you
have
can
a glass
chat.
of wine.
Yeah, relax.
Get a nice dinner.
Yeah.
And then just open it up, being like, hey, I am not hugely into peeing on you during our showers. But you know what I really like is when I go down on you and we use your vibrator together. Like there's things where you can say, I like this, I don't like this in a sexy way, which could also be foreplay and you can get into it. You know what I mean?
100%. And don't focus too much on the negative.
No,
So
exactly.
talk about the things that you like rather than the things that you hate.
Yes.
So talk about, maybe say the things that you like and then say the things you don't like. Or just say, look, this is probably a little bit of a line for me. How do you feel about that? Try and feel them out a bit in terms of, I mean, look, if you've been with them this long, you know where they're at, don't you?
The bits and bobs are at, yeah.
You know,
Everyone does.
the whole thing. Anyway, talk to each other.
Talk to each other. That's Mel's good advice, and she's always goddamn right, even though I hate to admit it. But what do you guys think of this? If you guys are having this problem too, maybe you're the kinky one. Maybe you are having a problem with a kinky partner or a kinky friend who you're like, stop sexting me. You're my friend. We want to hear from you.
Wow.
It's a very specific
That
thing.
is very specific.
So yeah, you guys can always go to sharemytruthpod.com. No, sharemytruth.com and sharemytruthpod on socials.
Very
And chat
good.
with us there.
Very good, Susie.
Okay, love you guys.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening. Please rate and review this podcast and follow us on social at Sharing My Truth Pod. And leave us a voicemail on our website at sharingmytruth.com to share your stories and experiences with us. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.